Welcome to the Remembrance Codes. Before I say a word about Lilith or Magdalene, I want you to take a breath with me. A slow inhale and a steady exhale. Because what we are going to enter now is not a lecture or a history lesson. It is a current. It is a river, ancient and alive and running through you even now. We have been taught to think of the wild and the soft as if they live on two different shores. And you would have Lilith on one side, untamed and dangerous and uncontrollable, and Magdalene on the other, reverent and silent and careful with her steps. But the truth is, the river runs through them both. And when we step into it, when we allow ourselves to feel the fullness of that current, we remember that sovereignty was never meant to be divided. The wild is not always loud. The soft is not always yielding. And when they live together in us, the fierce and the gentle, the free and the discerning, we become ungovernable in the most holy way. So this is not about choosing sides or deciding which one you would like to embrace and embody. This is about remembering that you are already both. The day after I posted the first Magdalene transmission, Lilith started coming to me in synchronicities, first in a text and then soon after in a book, all these casual mentions, but I felt this calling, the longing for her current to be allowed to rise up in my voice and to explore her place in this tide that rises. But before we can feel into the weaving of these two currents of Lilith and Magdalene, I want to speak briefly about Lilith. Because like Magdalene, she is a woman whose name has been dragged through the mud for centuries. In the oldest versions of the story, before Eve, there was Lilith, Adam's first wife. She was not formed from his rib, but made of the same earth, equal in essence and power. And because of that equality, she would not lie beneath him, not just sexually, but spiritually and socially. She would not submit to his rule. She spoke her truth, and she walked her own way, and for that, she was cast out and recast as a demon. Her name twisted into a warning against the untamable woman. It's a classic tactic used against autonomous women throughout time. Lilith holds this frequency of the woman who would not yield. She is the dark feminine, not evil, but wild and sovereign and untamed by systems that would try to domesticate her. She is sacred rage and truth without apology. And she is the embodiment of refusal, of the divine no that leads to the sacred yes. And that is why she has been feared. Because a woman who knows she is whole without being made from a man, who refuses to bow to hierarchy or to hide her desire, one who walks away from false paradise, instead of contorting herself to belong, that woman shakes the structures. But what I see in her story is not the sacred rage that flips tables, although she could. It is a flame that refuses to dim. She did not leave because she hated Adam. She left because she refused to remain in a place where her freedom had to be given up in exchange for belonging. She chose herself. even if it meant walking into the wilderness alone. And I know that choice. A few years ago, my life looked perfect on the outside. We have 3 beautiful children. We travel. My life looks glorious. We had the kind of life that photographs well. But inside our home, things were brittle. Mark was overextended, constantly working and traveling for work with no passion of his own to pour into. And everyone else got the best of him. And I got what was left. And what was left was angry and volatile and impatient. And one day I realized I had been tiptoeing on eggshells for too long. I longed to run free, or to at least step without caution. And I knew I had to be willing to walk away from comfort and from security and even from the hope that I had on my wedding day. I was ready to give it all up, to step into the unknown and to try things differently. And after a big outburst, I knew that I was ready. And in that moment, that readiness, that knowingness, that was my Lilith moment. That was the day I chose me. In the end, I didn't have to go, but I had to know that I would. And that choice changed everything. And now I'm happy in my home, and it feels different where I live. But I made a vow then and over since that I will never choose comfort again if comfort feels like a cage. And that is how Lilith has profoundly shifted me. But it's also in the day-to-day choices that we make to not dim. And then there is my voice. I have always been gifted with language, and for years, I knew how to weaponize it well. I knew how to twist words so they cut deep, how to win an argument with precision strikes, or to use cutting humor that carries a smile and leaves a mark. My tongue could be as wild as my spirit. But over time, I've learned that there is no argument worth winning if it costs me my center. And now I can tend my flame instead of throwing sparks. I can invite people to the fire, but no longer chase them down with my torch. If they want to warm themselves, they will come. And if they don't, I don't need to convince them. I posted about that Magdalene episode on Facebook, which for me is not exactly where I am going to receive applause or even a warm welcome, but I cannot just speak in rooms of agreement. And in this post, this lesson showed up again, and it allowed me to experience my own softening. A man named John, a devout Christian, came in hot. He told me that my soul does not whisper and that my heart is deceitful and that I shouldn't trust it. And years ago, I would have met that heat with heat. But this time, I met him with grace. I didn't match his rage. I didn't even feel it. And I didn't try to change his mind. I answered with thoughtfulness and compassion and silence when his final words landed. And here's the thing. Someone else, a woman I also know to be a churchgoer, read the exchange and wrote to me that my kindness and my thoughtfulness made her more eager to listen to the episode. That's Magdalene's way. And this isn't just an ancient myth playing out in my life. It's happening every day in our culture. When women speak their truth in the public square, even if the public square is now digital, they are labeled, belittled, bullied. I mean, we can see that Black women know this. Their power, their voice is often met with the label angry Black woman. And that label is not about truth. It's about control. It's the same tactic that has been used in every era, to take the woman who will not be quiet and call her dangerous, unstable, untrustworthy, to twist the story until she doubts herself or the world doubts her. It happens to all women, which is why we must root ourselves so deeply in our own knowing that no label can tell us who we are. Sometimes we will speak. Sometimes we will allow the silence to speak. The wisdom is in knowing which one is needed. And that knowing comes from our center, from our heart, from our soul, not from the voices that seek to control us. Lilith taught me to walk free. Magdalene taught me to walk whole. And together they remind me wildness is not recklessness. Softness is not weakness. And sovereignty can be all of it, as long as it's true. Now, I do want to offer you a transmission from the Lilith current so that you can feel and experience her. So take a moment, take a breath, and settle yourself to receive these words. I am the one who left. Before the stories were written, before they crowned him king, before ribs became cages and obedience was dressed as virtue, I was whole. I did not come from his body. I came from the womb of the earth as he did, equal, simultaneous, formed of clay and cosmos. They asked me to kneel, to bow, to soften my voice and tame my hips, to lie beneath, not just in flesh, but in truth. And I said no, not with violence, not with spite, but with the clarity of one who remembers her origin. I did not rage, I rose. I did not destroy, I departed. I would not stay in a paradise built on hierarchy. So they wrote me out, not just of the garden, but of the story itself. They called me a demon, harlot, baby killer, anything to keep women from walking away, anything to teach daughters not to question. But truth cannot be erased. It can only be buried until the earth exhales. And she is exhaling now. You, beloved, are part of that exhale. You feel me stirring in your belly when you refuse to smile just to be liked. You carry me in your blood when you choose your wholeness over being chosen. You speak with my tongue when you say, I will not trade my fire for belonging. I am not against man. I am not the opposite of Eve. I am the missing page, the one that completes the story. Where Eve teaches compassion, I teach command. Where Magdalene anoints, I awaken. Where Sophia dreams, I ignite. Let them call you too much. Let them name you wrong. You are here to remember what they tried to make unnameable. And when you do not just remember me. You become me. I hope that you felt the energy of that offering, knowing that these currents are invitations. May you walk away from this moment knowing that you do not have to fracture to be powerful. May Lilith's untamable fire burn in your bones. And may Magdalene's grounded grace steady your steps. May you know when to roar and when to whisper, when to move like a storm and when to stand like a mountain. May you never mistake softness for weakness or wildness for recklessness. And above all, may you trust that your sovereignty is most whole when it is all of it. The wild, the soft, the fierce, the tender, as long as it's true. The river is in you. Step into it again and again and again. It will never run dry. See you next week.